All right, guys, let's talk about real estate, apartment investing. A freaking passion, I freaking love it. Let's. I know on a previous video we kind of roughly talk about income, expenses, NOI, talk about the debt service, and we talk about cash flow. So now let's look into numbers. Let's do an exercise. So let's assume we're buying 3 apartments. I mean, like we analyzing a deal. This is a triplex, okay? So that's 3 apartments. Okay. And let's think the purchase price for this is $170,000. Okay? So that's the purchase price. So now let's think, there's 3 apartments, how much income they produce, right? So let's imagine each apartment is rented for $650, okay? So let's add 650 by 3, 650 multiplied by 3. That's 1,950. Right. So let's put over here gross income. $1,950. Okay. And remember, this is monthly. So right now we're doing monthly numbers. Okay. So expenses. What expenses do we have? Expenses. Okay, so think on, let's say, property management. Let's say the utilities. Like I told on the other video, a lot of these small deals like duplex, triplex, fourplex, the tenants pay for the power, but the landlord pays for the water. So water, think on landscape. Okay. So property management. Imagine you get yourself a property manager that is gonna charge you 6% of the monthly rent. So let's see how much is that. Okay. So 1,950, multiply that by 6%. That's 117. Water, let's just make some numbers up, right? Let's imagine it will be $50. And the landscape, think about it will be $80. And again, we're talking monthly expenses. Property management, if you're not gonna manage it yourself, by the way, you should learn how to manage the property management. That's a game you definitely should look into learning it. All right. Because it's so important, the property management, as a real estate investor, to know that game as well. But anyway, you hire a property management, they're charging you 6%, which is 117. Water, you got $50 a month, and landscape, $80 a month. So now let's subtract 1,950 minus 117 minus 50 minus 80. That will be a number of 1,703. Let me double check. 1,950 minus 117 minus 50 minus 80 give 1,703. Okay. This right here is the net operating income, which is known by NOI for short. Okay. So there is something called cap rate. A lot of investors talk about cap rate. So cap rate is a formula that I will show you how to calculate. Cap rate is NOI divided by purchase price. Okay. This is cap rate. Okay. So if we want to know what's the cap rate on this deal, we're gonna grab that number 1,703 and we're gonna multiply it by 12 so we know how much is a year. So 1,703 multiplied by 12, that's 20 grand 436 multiplied by the purchase price, divided by the purchase price, 170 grand. Oh, hold on. Hey, by the way, it's the other way around. So, okay. So it's purchase price divided by NOI. So let me flip that out. So just so to make sure you guys are following me. That's the gross income. That's, let's say each unit was rented for 650 multiplied by 3 because there's 3 apartments. That's 1,950. Remember, we're talking a month here. All the expenses, what monthly expenses I have, property management, water, landscape, that gives me this net operating income a month of 1,703 after the expenses. Now, if I multiply this number by 12, so I could have what's the yearly NOI, net operating income, yearly NOI. So I multiply this number by 12, give me 20 grand 436. Okay. Now, if I want to know what's the cap rate, and remember the cap rate is if you're using just cash. That's the return of your investment if you're not putting financing, if you're just doing all cash. Okay. So you got the purchase price, which is 170K divided by the NOI. So it's purchase price divided by the NOI equals cap rate. Purchase price, 170K divided by 20,436 equals a 8.32% cap rate. All right? Now, most of us, and I will highly recommend it, that you get financing, okay? So now let's talk about the other number, which is very important, which is cash on cash. That's the number, the return on investment when you're using financing, okay? So the NOI, this number right here, 1,703. So 1,703 is the NOI minus the debt service. Let's say your mortgage on this is 1,050. Okay. And I'm just making these numbers up, the debt service, but maybe around that, okay? The cap rate is telling you the return on your investment a year, okay? So it's telling you're receiving back 8.32% of the money that you invested. That's if you buy it cash, all the way cash, okay? By the way, like I was telling you, I highly recommend you guys, if you're gonna invest, use financing. And if you're gonna use financing, don't overuse leverage. So use 40% to 50% down payment, okay? So if you were doing this deal, 170K multiplied by 40%, talking about like putting a 68,000 down payment. I believe that you should put 40 to 50% down payment on your deals. I don't like the idea of over leverage. I don't like of putting 5% and leveraging 95 or putting 20% and leveraging 80. I believe on doing 40% and financing 60%, or putting 50% and financing the other half, 50-50, 50% finance and the other 50% as a down payment. So on this deal, if you buy this deal for 170K and you put 68 grand for down payment, which is 40%, okay? So now we're trying to look for the cash on cash. So the NOI, which is the income minus the expenses, the monthly NOI is 1,703. And let's say your mortgage payment a month, because you put 68 grand down payment, let's say your monthly payment to the bank is 1,050. So let's subtract 1,703 minus 1,050. That will give you 653. And this money, my friend, my brother, my sister, is called cash flow, freaking cash flow. So this money goes to your pocket every month. Every month. Now, I was telling you about cash on cash, which is the last formula I want you to understand. What is cash on cash? So it's the return of your investment. Remember, if you're using financing, your investment is 68 grand, okay? 68 grand. So on this case, what you gotta do to get the cash on cash is to divide your down payment divided by your cash flow. But remember, we gotta do a year, so that will be 653 multiplied by 12 divided by 7,836. So your down payment is 68 grand divided by 7,836. We give 8.68%. And this is called cash on cash. Okay? So, cap rate, the cap rate is when you're doing cash. That's the return of your investment. Now, cash on cash is when you're using financing. It's the same thing, because the on cap rate is the money that you use, which is 170K, because you put all cash, your purchase price divided by your NOI. But over here, remember, you're not putting 170K, you're using the bank money too. So you only put in 68K. So 68,000, the down payment divided by the yearly cash flow, so you gotta multiply that by 12. So the down payment divided by the yearly cash flow gives you the cash on cash, 8.68% cash on cash. All right? So that's the difference. Here you got how you get the cap rate and how you get the cash flow. The cash on cash. I hope this helps, man. And remember, this is a 3 apartments. Always use financing and use 40 to 50% financing. Don't over leverage. Why? Because when the fucking market go to hell, the market go down, you don't wanna be over leveraged. So remember, the more money from the bank you use and the less down payment you put, the less cash flow you're gonna get, because your payment to the bank is more. So when you pay to the bank, the money you got left over is less. So use more down payment, so that way you have more cash flow. When the market goes down, you're still good. You don't want to find yourself negative cash flow every month because you use too much leverage from the bank. Hope this helps, man. And this is the beginning of a new, a lot of courses coming. Thank you.